got a quick tip here for a little tool that I made, and this is to find where the number one piston is at top dead center. The first thing I want to do is install the tool into the spark plug hole there, and here it is. And then all this is a 5/8 socket here on the end, so you could actually, if you wanted, you could use the ratchet and extension to snug that up. Just gonna thread that in there by hand as far as it wants to go. Again, you can use the ratchet and extension, put that on there, and then just give it a little snug if you wanted to. Nothing too crazy, just enough to hold it snug. Our next piece here is just a push rod, and then that's going to go into the hole, and that's going to rest up to the top of the piston. The reason I'm using a push rod is for this rounded end right here, so when that rides the top of the piston, it's got that kind of rounded shoulder there. So you could use a dial indicator, hook that up somewhere, and then have the dial indicator on the end of the push rod, and then you know for a fact exactly how far up and down it's going. Here are all the pieces here. All you're gonna need is this push rod. That's gonna go through the whole assembly. I've got a 5/8 socket with a 3/8 drive on there. This would be the same socket that you're using to install and remove your spark plugs, because that's gonna be your 5/8 right there on the shoulder of the spark plug. So you just get an old spark plug, an old socket, and then what I got here is just a simple bushing that's going to fit tightly inside the socket here, and then that's also drilled out to accept our push rod. What I'm going to do is I'm going to chop off the spark plug here and chop it off there. This is what we're going to be left with after we cut those pieces off the spark plug. Next, I'm going to use a small socket that's again 5/8 that's going to fit on there, and then I just have a 5/16 bolt that's going to fit inside the hole there, and then we're going to push that ceramic piece out this way. It has to go out that way. You see I have it set up in the vise here, and when I start squeezing that 5/16 bolt, that's going to push the ceramic out. It's going to start to go into our socket right here, but it'll only be able to go so far. Once we've got it started, we'll switch over to the deep socket, which is the same socket we're going to use to build the tool, and then a longer bolt, and then that'll separate those two pieces. Here's the remnants of the ceramic that all shattered and busted up when we pressed that out of there. And here is the piece after we've removed that. So now all that ceramic is removed out of there. This is the bottom of our spark plug that's going to thread into the head. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to press our bushing or sleeve inside the socket. That's going to be an interference fit. So again, we're going to use the vise and we're going to push that in place. And then this is going to come in behind it and fit into the socket as it normally would. We're just going to continue to press that sleeve or bushing inside the socket until it bottoms out. We end up having to use a 5/16 bolt and nut, and that's going to press it in all the way till it bottoms out in the end. Here's that sleeve or bushing. It's bottomed out. You can see it down in there. If we flip it over, you can see where it's bottomed out to the end on there as well. I'm going to use the vise to hold it true while we tack it up, give it a couple tacks around there. Also, I'm going to use some electrical tape, protect those threads, because I don't know what the size is for sure, and I don't have a die to chase them if we end up getting any weld splatter on there. Here's the end result. This is going to thread into the head. We've got that hole all the way through for our push rod to slide up and down. We can take an accurate measure with the dial indicator, and we also have our end here that will fit our extension for our socket if we want to snug that down. This is my version of the tool to find top dead center whenever you're working on an engine.